It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another Real Estate Podcast, talking your property, of course, from Adelaide to the Sunshine Coast and every city in between. You can stream us on multiple platforms, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. And don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, which is available every morning as we talk to all of those property professionals throughout Australia. It is your gateway to a lot of fantastic information 7 days a week. And talking of the week, we're up to a Thursday morning, March the 13th. Now, a Melbourne landlord has got to pay compensation for illegally entering her tenant's home 29 times in 15 months, sometimes multiple times weekly. Now, I know that we were talking about another case just recently, but this is a different one. And the Victorian law only allows biannual inspections. Tenants, what did they do? They filed a VCAT claim after the landlord entered the property just 1 week into their tenancy. VCAT found the landlord's entries unnecessary and excessive. No kidding. Ruling in favour of the tenants, highlighting the importance of respecting tenant privacy. Words, I got to say, they just fail me here. Good landlords too will be feeling appalled by this. And this is a female landlord, dispelling the myth, if you have a female landlord rather than a male, that you are in some way more safer from this type of intrusion. Clearly not the case. Let's go to Queensland right now and catch up with Alex Cook from Resort Brokers and Nick Buick from the On-Site Manager, a couple of experts in their field when it comes to management rights. And Nick, what do you think about that?
That is certainly excessive. I feel like the tribunals often err on the side of the tenant a little more so, but in that case, it definitely sounds like it's excessive. I don't think it's a gender-based issue. It sounds more like incompetence to me, and I don't think incompetence is gender-related in our industry.
Yes, that's probably a good way to put it. And Alex dodged a bit of a bullet with old Alfred, the cyclone, doing some flooding, but not as bad, thankfully, what we were looking at.
No, it certainly wasn't bad as expected. It did very much depend what suburb and what area you lived in southeast Queensland. Certainly the Gold Coast in places got quite badly damaged. Northern New South Wales was quite badly affected. Some suburbs in Brisbane went under, but nowhere near what was expected. So yes, certainly not a disaster on the par of 2022 or 2011.
Yeah, that is good news for particularly Brisbane after having already, of course, sustained some of these major floods in the past. Now, the management rights industry, we've been talking about this over a number of months, educating people. It's a significant sector with thousands of schemes operating nationwide. Each state has varying numbers, collectively overseeing a vast number of residential units. The industry, I think, is valued in the billions, employing thousands of people across Australia.
Yes, our management rights report that we put out we put it out annually, but the 2024 report, we estimate the size of the industry to be just shy of 10 billion, about 4,000 to 4,500 schemes nationwide, the predominance of which are in Queensland, probably about 300 to 350,000 lots under management and 30 to 40,000 people employed. So although it is a niche industry, there's no doubt it is a very significant industry.
And management rights buyers typically include investors and owner-operators seeking steady income and that capital growth. And many enter the market for lifestyle benefits and long-term returns, often holding their assets, Nick, for years before selling to upgrade or diversify their portfolio.
Yeah, that's right. We've got about 650 on-site managers in our agency. It's a very diverse and colourful industry in terms of the type of people that buy these assets. They do get a good lifestyle, but it is a lot of hard work as well. The cyclone was a particularly interesting one. I rang around quite a few of my managers to check on them over the last few days, and they're very staunch. No, we're fine. There's no problems here. It's all good, and that's really interesting up in Cairns. They get hit with Category 5s every couple of years, and I'll call the managers up there and, we've lost a roof on a couple of units, but we're all good here. You have to be pretty staunch to be in this industry, and it seems to be the characters that really thrive and prosper have that sort of a mentality and mindset.
It's probably worth bearing in mind, Craig, there is a broad spectrum to the type of people who do buy buyers. At the smaller end of the market, mum and dads who are looking for second income, sort of semi-retiree type arrangements, buying small businesses and, looking to do a relatively manageable workload, right the way up to large-scale corporates who are buying very large-scale buildings with very large-scale building businesses attached. There's a large spectrum of buyers, from the size of businesses they're buying and the level of equity that they're able to invest.
Yes, and each year a substantial number of management rights businesses change hands with a steady pipeline of listings available at any given time. The market does see consistent activity, doesn't it, driven by investors and operators looking to enter and expand within their sector?
Yeah, so that's right, Craig. Typically, we have around 650 or so management rights for sale. As of this morning, there's 623 management rights for sale. As Alex was saying, out of a total pool of around 4,500 schemes across the country. So, it's fairly stable. There's pre-COVID, we had around 1,600 at the peak just before COVID. Those numbers got pulled back a fair bit with accountant figures not being the best during COVID. And now it seems fairly stable in the sort of mid-600s.
That's right. And certainly from a transactional perspective, we partner up with the majority of the valuers in the industry and try to get a gauge of how many businesses actually transact and settle each year. From our records, we're probably recording about 250 a year, but I would say there's probably another 100 on top of that we're not capturing. So I'd say from a transactional perspective, probably 300 to 400 businesses actually sell and settle each year. So it's a fairly active transactional market.
Now, the management rights market, it is constantly evolving. I think we can all agree on that. It's definitely a dynamic industry, and larger, well-managed complexes continue to attract premium prices. Recent high-profile sales highlight the sector's resilience to that, reflecting investor confidence despite broader economic fluctuations. Have I got that right?
Yes, absolutely. Certainly at the top end of the market, larger scale assets that have sufficient net profits whereby they can be bought by corporates and syndicates placed under management, and investors can achieve a passive return. Larger managements at that end of the market are receiving ever increasing multipliers. Arguably smaller management rights at the more mum and dad management rights, particularly when they have expensive managers' residences or real estate attached. They can be somewhat harder to sell, but certainly at the top end of the market, those large-scale corporate assets are very much in demand. And when we take them to market, we're typically dealing with 10 to 15 buyers trying to secure those assets. So yes, very, very highly sought after at the top end of the market.
It should also be noted there that a lot of those syndicates, you do have to start somewhere. I've got managers that work with us that have been with us for, 10, 15 years, started out with a single scheme, acquired several more, syndicated, and became those syndicates that you sort of see at the high end now. So, there is a scale there as well. If you're good at what you do, you can grow from a single scheme.
Absolutely. And off the back of what Nick just said, we estimate that on selling, probably about 60 to 65% of operators stay in the industry. So they're, as Nick says, they're typically selling to move up and buy larger management rights, or perhaps work with other people to syndicate and buy an even larger management rights. So there's a lot of retention within the industry.
All right, we'll leave it there, guys. Always good to chat with some good content around management rights. I'll let you get on with your Thursday. Once again, thanks for coming back onto the Real Estate Breakfast. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Craig. Good to see you, Alex.
Decode the property market with insider knowledge and insights to better navigate your real estate journey.
What's up, Craig? So happy to be here.
Have you been to Australia by any chance?
I actually have, yeah. After I graduated college, I moved there for 6 months with no real plan other than to just travel around and have the time of my life. And I'm happy to announce that I accomplished that goal in Australia. I love it there.
Good stuff. And I think a few more Americans are planning on moving to Australia permanently since the US election results. But we do want to talk this morning about these wretched squatters moving into your property. In fact, you've got some direct experience about this.
Yes, sir. So what happened to me is I made a video earlier this year that went super viral, like tens of millions of views, about where I pretended to be a squatter. And it was real tongue in cheek, but a lot of people took it seriously. And it landed me like on the news, on talk shows, on News Nation. I went on the Dr. Phil show. What it really kind of showed me is that this is a much bigger deal and a much more underserved market than I'd first realized, because I've never had like a real bad squatter situation before, but a few of my friends have, and it's lax laws, it's loopholes that squatters are taking advantage of. And then in the process, I learned about something called deed fraud, which is a very insidious crime that's growing in popularity and robbing homeowners of all their equity. So I started Squatter Defender and Title Fraud Defender to help defend property owners against those. And that's been my little 2025 side quest.
So tell us a little bit more about that deed fraud that you're talking about.
Yeah, so a deed, at least here in America, and I think it's like this other places too, it's just a piece of paper with a notary stamp on it, and you can file it with the county clerk, and just like that, you can change the title to a property. And if you go through a series of steps, you steal an identity and you put it in that identity, you can actually steal the title to somebody's house and then resell it and then pocket all of that equity into your ill-begotten bank account. It was one of those things where I found out about it. It wasn't that common, but it's like doubling every year, that sort of thing. And there's not a lot that's being done about it. So when I started Title Fraud Defender, it was really in an effort to help protect my fellow investors from it. But actually, most of the people that are signing up on our website to protect their titles, not all of them are investors. They're just concerned homeowners about this growing crime.
So not everybody has seen the video that you're talking about. When you say you pretended to be a squatter, how did all of that unfold? How did you do that?
So I just said, hey, this is how I stole a house in Portland, Oregon, and totally got away with it. So I basically say, all right, first I looked up a vacant house, then I broke into the lockbox and gained access, no problem. Then when the police showed up, I had moved in my furniture and my buddies, and I said, oh, hey, sorry, but this is my house. And, once you're in possession of the house, possession's 9/10 of the law. The police officers got a he said, she said situation, got an owner saying, hey, I've never seen this guy before. And I've got the squatter, I guess me in this case, saying like, well, hey, no, I have a lease. Here's my lease. And of course, it's just something you printed up on your computer. And so the cop says, okay, well, this is a civil matter. I can't arrest this person. I can't pull them out of their house just because you say he's not supposed to be there. And plus, it's like, look, he's got his friends and his furniture in there. Like, this looks legit. So that leads to a dispute. And it's kind of a legal loophole that these squatters are exploiting. And when it comes to evicting them and getting them out, it takes months and months and months. And by then they've trashed the place. They've taken advantage of the homeowner for tens of thousands of dollars. A lot of times they will pay them cash for keys to leave and then they won't. So it's a real big problem.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.